Today we're talking with candidates for the District 17 House seat. Republican Cyndi Stevenson and nonpartisan.
Nonpartisan.
Yes.
No party affiliate.
Yes, okay, no party affiliate. Thank you for both coming. Let me ask you something first. I had a little trouble finding out a lot about you. I mean, I know sort of the basic things I was able to find online, but why don't you tell us who you are and why you're running for the office?
Okay. I was concerned about my country, and I finally have the time to spend doing something else besides being responsible. I decided to jump into this political race because I finally, as I said, have the time and the energy to do it. I've always been a closet politician and called my congressman and told him how to vote. And I decided that the time had finally come that I needed to get more involved instead of just calling a congressman. But now you want to know what I'm all about. So
That'd be fun.
let me tell you, I started when I was 24 years old. I was I went to Vietnam with the Red Cross and supported our troops. I started 2 pro-life organizations because I felt like women needed another choice besides abortion, so they could choose to have their baby if they wanted to. So I started 2 of those pro-lifes, one in Hutchinson, Kansas, and one in Jacksonville Beach, Florida. I for a brief time, was a classroom teacher. I'm a mother of 2. For a long time, I was a single mom. I'm a grandmother of 5 who are in the school system. And maybe not all of them, but they will be shortly. I started my own business when I moved to Florida some 35 years ago and ran it for almost 23 years until I was able to sell it and retired. I became a senior caregiver the day I retired because I had elderly parents. So I took care of them for 5 years. And I have traveled extensively. I have been in over 80 countries. I have observed politics in those countries, and I bring back a lot of ideas from other countries that I think would work in our country as well. So that's just kind of the basics of my life. And it actually just brings me to where I am today.
Okay. Cyndi, you want to do that one too?
Oh, sure, I'd be happy to. My name is Cyndi Stevenson. I'm a CPA and an auditor, and I'm also a wife and a mother. I grew up in Volusia County. My father started a business the year I was born, and I worked in that business with him for many years. I graduated from Stetson University, moved to Jacksonville in 1981, and I've lived in the Northeast Florida area for over 30 years. We naturally saw that St. Johns County was a great place to raise our children, so we moved down here with our 2 sons who went to public schools and have also graduated, or one is getting ready to finish medical school at the University of Florida. St. Johns County has been wonderful for us. I lived in a very high growth part of the county in a when the growth was really coming on, and got involved in a planning issue and worked on solving problems regarding transportation, the need for a high school site, and regional ballparks for our community. After that, people in my area started asking me if I'd run for county commission. After 2 years of prodding, I finally gave in and ran at the last minute, and was elected and served as a county commissioner here for 10 years. It's been a great privilege and honor to serve in that role, and I've learned a lot about state level issues. From growing up in Florida, I grew up fishing, and we lived on a little farm for a while as well. And I learned a lot about Florida and the way people live in different parts of our state and in our county, different lifestyles that they choose. And I am now happy because of the resignation of John Thrasher and the vacuum that was left at because of that resignation, our 2 House members who ran against each other, and knowing that we were going to lose 2 very experienced people from our state delegation, I resigned from a job that I love doing dearly. I mean, other than being a wife and a mother, being a county commissioner has been just a wonderful experience. And I feel like I've had a chance to make some hard decisions that were good for our long-term prosperity in St. Johns County. But I want to take that experience and use it in Tallahassee. And that kind of brings me up to date.
Okay. Judy, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Why do you run nonpartisan?
Well, actually, I've decided I'm a third, a third, and a third. Third Republican, third Independent, and a third Democrat. I'm a fiscal conservative on the Republican side, and I support our Constitution, but I believe in people issues and helping people. And I have a lot of other innovative issues like an independent would that I'd like to bring to the game too. So I think I bring a lot of life experiences to this job, and I would like to have a lot of conversations and and initiate bills and support bills in the legislature.
This kind of goes along with that. As an independent, are you associated with the Tea Party in any way?
No.
I just noticed there was I guess you spoke to them.
Yes.
So I wasn't sure exactly.
Well, I mean,
How that-
I've been speaking to all kinds of organizations.
Yeah, I just hadn't
but-
noticed that one, so I just didn't know whether that was something that you were more associated with, or that blended
Well,
into your.
I
You agree with some of the?
I agree with a lot of the Tea Party issues, absolutely.
Okay.
If you had to tell us what your one issue is, what would it be that you're running
Well,
on?
I think probably now it's the Common Core standards, because I was just in Tallahassee this week, and I'm very concerned about this education program because I have 5 grandchildren in the school system. And I think we're kind of when you first read it, you think it's a great idea, and then you get into it and you realize that it's not just standards, it's a whole curriculum that they're bringing in. It's a way of teaching, it's a way of teaching things very differently than our children have been taught. I mean, it's bringing in computers, which before we used to have pencil and paper exams. It's a very expensive program that I'm very concerned about the state being on the hook for the money for implementing it, as well as servicing it. But mostly I'm concerned about our kids because it's a different way of teaching them. And from what I've been able to determine, it's not going to prepare them that well for college and for the STEM jobs. It's basically going to prepare them for 2 years of community college work, as near as I can tell. From what I'm finding out now, that they're with the math program, that they're basically going to be behind 2 years compared with other children in other countries. So after this is completed, so I'm not sure it's going to really prepare them from college. And I'm also concerned about the fact that it's a one-size-fits-all program. And I don't think any of our kids are in one-size-fits-all, because we have all kinds of children from other countries living in our country now. We have minorities. We have our own children. I mean, everybody thinks differently. And when you have this one program that says you have to take these tests a certain way and you're being taught a certain way, I think we're doing an injustice to our children. I think every school district needs to pick out their own standards and have their own curriculum to decide what's best for their children. So this has become my red button issue for me, and I'm hoping that this new bill that's pending in the legislature, and the one in the House is called the Assessment and Accountability Bill, and I hope that this passes, because that will remove Common Core from our school system.
Cyndi, do you want to just jump on Common Core while we're on there?
Well, I will say I certainly agree that Common Core is something that sounded good and has been difficult in the rollout. And there's a lot of concerns about curriculum, the way it drives curriculum in our history. I think it's important that in St. Johns County, we have a great school system. And now I hear angst when I go door to door, I hear angst from the parents about testing, and how the testing will be used to decide whether their children will advance or not. I believe that we are facing an increasingly competitive world. And so I do like the idea that we are going to have opportunities to have where you can have a measurable sequence for math, things like math, stair-step classes. If I'm in Georgia and I move to Florida or I move to Texas, I want to know that algebra is algebra. But there's been a lot of, I think we need to really focus on the children and what's good for them. Parent involvement in their schools is key to this long-term success of our school system in St. Johns County. And I like to see that. We have excellent school board members and administrators, and so I like to see those decisions closer to home would be ideal. But I do think we need good standards for people so that so they can continue to progress and succeed in the science and math.
So is that in support of Common Core?
I'm not sure that I have a clear beat on exactly what Common Core is, other than it's got a lot of people upset. And I think it's the primary issue is we need to focus on preparing our children to be competitive in a global economy, and what that means. And I think we also need to focus on how different children learn, and that making sure that we're covering the basics. Sometimes we get into so many esoteric things that we stop, the focus gets to be on these standardized tests instead of focusing on the children and how they learn and can achieve their optimal capacity, what they, how they will be able to contribute to society and to their families.
I think there's a lot of good tests out there, and a lot of good national standards out there, and a lot of good national tests that they could be taking besides these. They should be able to choose which one they want to take and which standards work for them.
I know you mentioned just before about that I guess it's Senator Mumford's bill actually is
That's correct.
It's a Senate bill. That this newest, that what they're trying to do is make this a baseline year for the new testing, for the new standards, but I don't believe that overturns Common Core. It just
Well, the one I'm talking about, that isn't the same one, the testing bill. There's a couple of supplemental bills that go along with it that are good also. But this is a basic bill that basically gets rid of it.
I never know that. Okay.
Well, let's ask Cyndi the same question that we asked Judy. What is your number one issue that you see as a candidate?
Well, the number one, just one.
I know, it's hard.
Well, I think that the issues that I see in St. Johns County are dealing with are growing our infrastructure, education, and resources that support our growing community and keep our economy strong. And a good economy is important. I guess I would say the end goal is that we have a strong, thriving economy. Our children well prepared for as they come out of school, our jobs for people to go to. I don't have I think of it more as the full package rather than a single issue.
So managing the growth?
Well, we are growing, and some of the worst things that have happened in St. Johns County have been because when we deny that we are growing. So I think planning for the infrastructure and making sure we take care of our natural resources. And in St. Johns County, it's especially fragile, I think, because we have this great tourism economy that is based on history and our natural resources and how we leverage those and make our economy strong. And I think that everything kind of, the economy drives our ability to do all those things. And so I see it as a little more of a full system.
Excuse me.
And I think that one of the things that we see is, people say, how is St. Johns County different from the rest of the state? It's just like we're experiencing the same kind of things people are in the rest of the state, but we're experiencing very intensely because we have a great school system. People want to come here. And we need to make sure that while the state is trying to fix the rest of the school systems, that they don't mess up ours. I'd like to do just basic things like having a reasonable way to fund our school, just for school construction. Sometimes it seems to me like the state is almost working against the ability for our school system to continue to be successful. And I would like to make sure that we are working more hand in glove in that, that we're working together for the best results.
If we say on education too, because the Common Core is hot, vouchers are hot too, charter schools and
Right.
vouchers.
I think charter schools need to be looked at a little closer. I think that they need to have a school board. They need to be accountable to a school board, and they're not now. It's kind of a private-public partnership, and I'm concerned because if within the private area that the businesses are funding the charter schools, but if something, or we're funding that, I should say the taxpayers are funding the charter schools, but the businesses are running them. And some of them are duplicating public school efforts, which isn't good. And other ones, if the school fails, the private company gets to walk away with the school and the land. So there's a lot of issues around charter schools, and I think they need to be looked at a little more closely, and I think they need to definitely have the supervision of a local school board for them.
Charter schools, I concur there needs to be accountability for them. I think they should be under the oversight of the school board, and I think somebody has to have the discretion for the overall school system. I think our school board has done an excellent job. They've brought in some charter schools that serve parts of the student population that they feel the charter will do best. And I think that somebody has to be accountable for the tax dollars and make sure that we have a good public school system in aggregate. So we have to serve all the children well. So there are some parts of the state where the charter schools hold out great promise because their school systems seem to be very broken. And so when I send my message out, I don't say I'm against charter schools, because for some places that is a really strong solution. So.
And a lot of people love their charter schools too. So it just depends on the school, and it just depends on the supervision.
I think the main thing is that you have enough resources for, if they're going to have them, they should fund them. They shouldn't take away the resources that make from the school system is doing well. That's,
pulling funds from the public school system. Exactly. So if it's
because there's
not,
a difference between charter schools and vouchers.
Mm-hmm.
So we're
Big
really
difference.
talking about vouchers. So both of you.
We
see
talked
it
about
as-
charter, yeah.
As draining public funds off for private. I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but that's the big issue with the vouchers, is that the public's, the money, I mean, we're building charter schools.
yeah, but
You know, I
but
mean,
again,
and then
the
vouchers.
vouchers have a lot of merit as well. So I've heard that argument that they're draining the money off too, because you're giving these businesses tax credits to do the vouchers with. But I'm kind of in favor of vouchers too, because it gives the kids that are in low-income areas a chance to get out of those schools and go somewhere else. So
they've been very successful with some.
Yeah.
There's some of them that have been religiously based, religious organizations or their sponsors, and they've been terrifically successful in many parts of the state.
So I don't know if that argument is 100% valid. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
I'm also a big proponent of small businesses, because that's what I had. And by the way, I had a travel and tourism agency, so that's exactly what Florida is, and that's what St. Augustine is. And I have 40 years experience in that field. But I'm also interested in small businesses per se, because from what I understand, there are now more of them are going out of business than are being created. So I would like to work to find a more favorable climate for small businesses, more cash flow from banks, lines of credit, cheaper rents from properties, and less government regulation. So I'm a big proponent of small businesses and creating jobs in that area.
Do you want to do small business?
Well, I think all businesses are important for St. Johns County, and I think we've done a good job. We've got the Small Business Development Center here, and when people don't realize small businesses can be pretty large, quite a few employees, so it's almost like mid-sized to small. But I think that what we can do to allow people to innovate and serve the market is very strong. And we've worked on some of those things. Like access to capital is an issue. I think the Small Business Development Center helps with that. But and the angel capital is a great thing as well. So my father's business started on sweat equity and kind of in-kind partnerships until he got going. And I think starting out with a little bit of overhead, with small overhead, is a good thing if you can find somebody to partner with. And his business started out of the window of a dry cleaner's. He printed in the back of a dry cleaner's and delivered out the window until he had enough base to support his first rent. And I think it's important for us to keep maybe fewer small businesses would fail if they were just really careful with the initial financial stewardship.
I started my business one person at a time and worked in outside sales for about 3 years until I opened my bricks and mortar agency. And started out with just on a shoestring, but I had a lot of clients, fortunately, so I never had any problem when I started out. But I think I took a second mortgage on my house or something for a few $1,000s, and that's how I started my business. So I didn't actually get any help from any banks to speak of, or any small business agencies or organizations, I should say. So I just kind of figured it out on my own, but it worked well. And I had a great business for as long as I wanted it, and then I was able to sell it and retire.
You're like one of the top 10 agencies.
I was at one time, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, then and then everything changed. The airlines came in, took away all of our commission, and then we started to. It became a struggle to keep our businesses afloat. But I was able to keep on going by going into different niche markets, so it worked out great. It worked out for me all right.
Okay.
So what sets you apart from your opponent? Let's kind of play that game for a minute. Why should somebody vote for you?
Well, I don't have any allegiance to any party. I'm not signing any loyalty oaths. My allegiance is to people. I'm running a grassroots campaign, and I'm running as a people's advocate and a watchdog. And I'm going to vote for whatever I think helps people. And I'm interested in lots of different areas, from the water amendment issue to small businesses, education, the jails. I mean, I feel like I want to do whatever is best for the people in Florida and in my district. So that, I think probably that's the only thing. I'm definitely a fiscal conservative, but I think we both probably are in that respect. And that's where I come from. And I think I bring a lot to the playing table because I am older and I've had a lot of different experiences.
Cyndi?
I started out as a CPA and an auditor, and I worked for a venture capitalist for a while, so I have very broad business experience, and I've worked in a lot of the regulated industries, healthcare, real estate, insurance. I was the controller for Children's Home Society. I was a controller for a small insurance company. I've helped people form their businesses, grow their businesses. I've had a diverse experience. And then being a county commissioner for 10 years pressed me hard into some of the key issues for growth in Florida's future, including water, agriculture, transportation. And then we get back into the social services and those types of things. I believe it's very important for us at this time to have experience in Tallahassee. The Tallahassee, it's not a full year session. Things move very fast. You not only have to know the issues, you have to know the process, and to know a lot of the people. And not only knowing the people in the issues in our county, but also our region and then in our state. I've been very active on state level issues as well over the last 10 years. I'm currently in Leadership Florida, learning more, and I don't know that you ever stop learning new things. But I believe that the distinguishing factor would be that I have experience in dealing with many of the complex issues that we see before Tallahassee. And I will tell you, I will be learning more. I mean, I think it's just important for us to have somebody that can hit the ground running and deal with the issues. And so I'm really asking for people's support so I can continue to work for them in Tallahassee and use what I've learned as a wife, a mother, and a business person to serve the people of St. Johns County and our region in Tallahassee.
I think one of my advantages is that I don't have a political background. That I can approach a lot of issues with the new ideas and from a grassroots view.
Okay. You all are in the fact that this entire district is in a very strange place with I mean, there's a total vacuum of leadership from our legislative delegation. We don't have.
You don't have any.
We don't have any.
I don't have a representative to lobby against on the floor.
It was interesting doing an editorial on those things you're talking about, the school standards, and at the end, I had to pull it out because we got to tell our legislative delegation to stop. And I said, wait, we don't have one.
Yes.
So so going into this, and I mean any freshman representative goes in, but to have the intern thing, do you see that as a real weakness, or do you see some ways that could be better?
I think we can get up to speed real fast. I've been studying those issues since I jumped into this race in Tallahassee, so I don't think I would have any problem at all. I've been subscribing to what is exactly happening in Tallahassee, bill by bill, department by department, so I've been following them as I went along.
You spent a lot of time.
Actually, I've been over and talked to both Travis and Doc are on the job. Thrasher's gone, and I think that Travis is planning. He's the Republican nominee for that seat. He is already, both Travis and Doc have been preparing and working on our behalf. I think the real vacuum is we don't have a senator right now. That is. And it's undeniable. There's 40 senators, and so we're asking for their help, people over there to help us. Delegations where they have similar issues like high-growth schools and those kind of things, and high-growth school districts that have funding issues. course, we are pretty much lead the pack on that. So yes, I do believe this is a difficult transitional time. I'm grateful that both Doc Renwart and Travis Hudson are filing things that I and whoever the successor in the District 24 seat can continue to move along, whoever succeeds them. I think they're trying to keep their district front and center. So, but I can't. There's no denying that not having a senator, or for that matter, in Northeast Florida, we haven't had anybody in leadership in some time, and that is, but not even to have a senator over there is.
And that's a growing game too. So it's not
Right.
just that we're behind a little bit now, but we're behind.
We need to get in there and show our competences and get into responsible positions, positions of trust, and that people know that you can take things, handle them, and collaborate, and that you understand the process and the state politics. I think that's because the truth of the matter is we deal with issues, but the politics are but to St. Johns County, that means this. To Palm Beach County, that means that. And you have to be sensitive to what the other people that you serve with, what they are dealing with at home as well. And that's what I mean by the politics. So.
And you know the hierarchy.
Yeah, indeed. Indeed.
I'm going to throw you a curveball here. There have been several stories that have been bubbling up about the ability of students on campus to be able to carry weapons. So do you guys have an opinion, yay or nay, whether this is good or bad?
Oh, I have an opinion on everything. You want to go first? Do you want me to?
You can if you'd like. I have a concealed weapon permit. Concealed, I'm not supposed to call that. I have a concealed gun permit. And it's not supposed to be a weapon unless you use it offensively. I'm listening to that debate. I know that people that are law-abiding people don't cause those problems, but there are some concerns if someone isn't proficient with their, and responsible with their gun. And so when you read what the NRA is saying, that the concealed permit holders do not, have the safest record. I'm sure that's true. And what I've seen so far quantitatively is it doesn't really seem to make the schools in general safer or more dangerous. I mean, it seems to be kind of as far as actual safety. But then if there's not a real issue, then why would you interfere with somebody's Second Amendment rights? So I think that it's I'm listening to that conversation very carefully. I know that I'm not even sure that there's a big safety issue that's been demonstrated on our university campuses. So when the universities say they have concerns, I'm going to listen to that. I think there's a couple of bills that have been filed. One of them is that if you happen to be carrying when you go on, that you wouldn't be cited. That if they found it, they would secure your weapon. But so I guess I'm still researching it. I know that less than half the states currently have a rule to that effect. And this is one of those kind of things where, in addition to the roads and the water and the schools, then you get issues like gun carry. And I know that the state of Florida has led the state with the rules for concealed carry, and so if it can be done responsibly, it's demonstrated it's done responsibly. I don't know that it makes the schools any more dangerous. So I have a little. So far, what I've learned is that it does not seem to be a big issue one way or the other. So, and that's all the quantitative information I've been able to find thus far.
Okay, I think it is a big issue now because a lot of university presidents and staff have come out against carrying guns on campuses. And a lot of people are concerned because kids, the college students seem to have, the younger college students could be drinking and carrying on, and there could be a danger if they're carrying guns. But from what I understand, it's only going to be for people who are 21 years and older. So we're talking upper grades here. And anybody who has a felony record or has a problem with depression or is on medication or anything like that will not be granted a permit to carry the gun on campus. So I'm coming out for it, because I think that if you have a gun-free area, this sets up those people to have a problem someday, because you're always going to have people with guns who can walk onto a college campus and do whatever they want. And with a lot of the problems that the college campuses are having today with young girls being raped and pedophiles around the campuses and all that, I would certainly feel more comfortable if I had a daughter that had a concealed carry weapon, or there were people on campus that were older that had them, so if they heard her screaming, they could come to her rescue. So I'm definitely in favor of it.
I intend to watch the Senate hearings on that to hear how that dialogue went. I've also heard there's some concern about other concerns outside of personal safety. So
There's definitely a lot of people against it, and they're getting to be more and more every day, but that's where I stand. I read the same things, but
Yeah.
you have to sort through all the stuff and decide for yourself what is best.
I mean, what do you think, if you could talk about the 10 years you were on a commission, where do you think you were different or leading or on the leading edge? Where did you make the most difference?
I think on fiscal responsibility, there were several things that we changed, that I initiated, changes in practices that were not financially sustainable. One, we had some very aggressive, it's not very sexy stuff, but being an accountant isn't about sexy stuff. We did some retiree healthcare reform. We had some very, very aggressive benefits, and we worked together with the sheriff and the tax collector's office and the union, fire union, and the retired employees and the current employees, and all worked together on a plan. And those are the kind of things that took down Fortune 500 companies earlier in my career. And so I knew that would be this is something that could have a big impact on us as time went on. I felt very fortunate we were able to come up with a favorable resolution on that before the economic downturn and before people were talking about bad economies and stuff like that. So that was something I felt like put the county in a position where we didn't have the equivalent of an unfunded pension liability. The other thing that I felt strongly about was that we needed to work on bike and pedestrian safety. Unfortunately, my husband had been hit in an accident. He had been hit by a car near our home, and while I've been in office, I've had 2 cousins who were killed, and one was a pedestrian on a sidewalk. And working on things like hit and run, having better understanding of the rules, and having cyclists and pedestrians follow those rules, and having planning for better facilities. Working on fixing the way the tourist development tax was being used. I think we're doing a much better job with that now than we were a number of years ago. And I'm really proud of is working on that rail trail project and getting that was a federal funding that was available. It's going to go into a trail project somewhere, and so we're more than halfway between the trail between Palatka and St. Augustine, and we'll finish it one day, and that'll be a great economic driver for that part of the county. Yeah, and there is. It's also an opportunity. I think if we have decent facilities, it's also an opportunity for people to maybe have one less car if they choose to, or maybe instead of having, my kids each had a car when they were going to school, maybe they could get by with one, so they could split the rides up and stuff like that. So I think bike and pedestrian safety has been a good one. Fiscal responsibility. I remember in the heyday for the county, we were having the biggest revenue year ever, was where we were headed, and I said no, they were going to adopt a millage rate and build heated pools and community centers, and it was very popular. The economy was good, the auditorium was full of people who wanted it. And I knew that there was weaknesses in the economy in the long term, and that things were going to turn south. And it was, I know you want these things, but we can't do it. The millage rate passed on a 3-2 vote, but when the new board was seated, those I won't say wasteful, but yeah, they were extravagances, and we hadn't covered our basics yet. Those were set aside, and we saved that money, and that's how we got through part of how we got through the downturn, between cutting cost and then taking that money instead of spending on a bunch of frivolous things to use that as like additional reserves during the downturn. So I'm very proud of that. And I think working on the fire and EMS services, in 2005 when I got elected, we did not have countywide services. Now we do, and those are good things. And the property taxes in St. Johns County today per person are lower than they were in 2005. And we have professional fire and EMS. And that's one way of starting to frame that issue of how we're doing financially as a county. So we are long past the day of volunteer firefighters. And
Well, it
if
sounds-
we're going to have a strong economy, we have these tourists coming from all over the place, they're going to need, if something happens, they're going to need somebody to come and really be able to take care of them and deal with their needs.
I would say the growth in this county has been tremendous. And as I've been driving through, visiting the area and calling on people, I'm amazed at all the building that's still going on. So that certainly is going to bring in a lot more revenue to St. Johns County too, because these homes are still being built in several areas, and several tracts of land are still open. So there's plenty of revenue coming in, I would say, at this point.
I'd say so too, possibly asking Cyndi the question about her term was unfair because you don't have a term. If you let me just even out a little, if you could get a bill to committee and get something going or get a bill passed, let's just say that when you went into Tallahassee, what do you think that would be? Are you
Which
still
one?
going to Common Core? Would it be?
Well,
is there something else you'd be
it
looking
would
at?
probably be Common Core first.
Okay.
Because if this bill doesn't pass, the Assessment and Accountability Bill, which is the name for it in the House, that's what I would probably initiate if I went to Tallahassee.
Can
first
Common
off.
Core be stopped? Can it be turned around at this point? I mean, everybody's against it, but it's.
Well, it's an
I really don't know the answer to that, to be honest with you.
Well, I think it needs to be stopped, let's put it that way, because I think to experiment on our children is not right. And if we go through 10 years of this and then they finally decide that the results aren't what they expected them to be, we've lost a generation of kids. I'm reminded of when my children were small and they had the new math, and it was a disaster, and my kids to this day don't know math well.
It was a disaster.
And they thought it was the greatest thing greatest thing going. So this is what it reminds me of, and this is why I'm so concerned about it.
Okay.
But I mean, there are other areas. I'd like to see more vocational programs in the jails and more education programs, because I don't think that the prisoners that are being released are coming out with any skills. How are you gonna help them to rehabilitate back into the community? So I'm starting to get into this issue, and I'm hearing people speak on it and reading on it, and I think there needs to be some new legislation in that area. I'm interested in mental health as well. I'd like to see more money for a standalone mental health department, and perhaps more patient facilities, because when you have a problem with a child, you can't wait around for an outpatient one. You need to put them in a secure environment where they can get help and get a new game plan.
Okay.
There's just a lot of issues that I would go into, but as far as the first bill, that would probably be my first bill.
Okay. You mentioned the mental health, and St. Johns County is kind of on the cutting edge of that too, but if you talk about wanting to put more money into mental health,
Right.
and you're in Tallahassee, we're not going to have more money than we did. Well, there's a little surplus here. So if you say let's put a lot more money into vocational training at the jails and
Right.
that, where would you cut the money? Because it's
Well, I think that they're talking about expanding mental health to outpatient facilities, and I would rather see it put into inpatient facilities.
But it's still gonna cost money, so
But
where would
I
that
think the
go?
money's already been allocated for that. But as far as the jails are concerned, I don't know where the money would be coming from, but then again, they have this partnership with businesses, so I'm not sure how that would play into it. But at one time, we did have a lot of those vocational programs in the jails. So where did the money go that was supporting those activities?
I think it's important that we work to reduce recidivism and maybe to eliminate some of the incarcerations on the front end by dealing with basic services. And that's what we've been trying to do in St. Johns County with the establishment of EPIC. And now we're currently lobbying for the FACT team, which would be outpatient mental health support for people that are severely mentally ill. And that doesn't matter how responsible your family is. When you have a situation like this, you need help. And for the best outcome, it's better to prevent and deal with this at a young age, and then they have a better long-term chance to contribute to society and to contribute to their family. When that's not dealt with, we have unstable. If we have instability, and there's a big episode, they may end up in a crisis at the emergency room. They may end up in a crisis in a jail. They may create their own personal crisis that might involve their own safety or the safety of other people. So, I mean, to me, that is, I think it's really important that we start to, one of the ways we can reduce our jail cost, incarceration cost, is to deal with the root cause of some of these problems.
Which
and
is
that's
mental health.
and the stronger drugs that are available now. It means that you really need a facility like EPIC. I mean, those are very. I think I would like to see that a little more treatment on the front end, better stewardship of those dollars, because they can spend all that time in jail. It's very costly, and they come out, and if we don't deal with something to help get them stabilized, they're going to be right back in. It gets harder and harder. Once somebody's been incarcerated, sometimes they'll lose their home. Their children end up in Department of Children and Family. It becomes a higher hurdle for them. So that's one thing, and I think that we could actually start to reshape how we spend that money. Maybe less in jails and incarceration, and some on the prevention. Yeah.
That certainly would be where I'm coming from too in that respect.
There is not money currently for the FACT team because of the concern about the Medicaid low-income pool funding, which has gotten caught up in the whole Obamacare discussion. And it's a significant issue for the safety net hospitals around the state. It's a billion-dollar issue that they're wrestling with, and we can't let, they're trying to make something that works for Florida without expanding the federal government's role in Florida, without doing a big Medicaid expansion. That's something that our legislature is wrestling with right now.
There is a lot going on in the legislature, and they're very concerned about that low-income pool because the government's threatening to take it away if we don't expand our Medicaid. And yet government's offering $51 billion, I believe, over a 10-year period, and people are concerned that what the government's offering isn't necessarily what they're going to end up getting. And if they expand Medicaid, can they then rescind it, which isn't likely. And they're very concerned about being stuck for the final tab if the government doesn't come through. So they're approaching it very cautiously. And I think they're looking at some private insurance and helping and getting low-income people to play a little bit on a sliding scale and have some co-pays and look at different things. So it's not a cut and dried issue or a black and white issue. You really have to kind of play it, look at all angles of it, because you don't want to leave Florida taxpayers footing this bill for this enormous Medicaid program, but yet you want to help low-income people.
That Healthy Florida Works is
It's one possible
concept that is getting a good look. It doesn't have to be the ultimate answer. If they can use that as a springboard to find a solution that works for Florida. But if we don't deal with the Medicaid issue, we will never get our FACT team. And not to mention the large number of people that it would affect. Our low-income pool serves people, including children with cancer who have exhausted their benefits, and seniors that without resources. So it's really important that it affects a large segment of Florida's population.
I think it's interesting that the government's threatening to withhold it unless we expand our Medicaid or take their Medicaid funds and move along those lines. So what gives them the right to blackmail us?
We hear a lot about unfunded mandates from Tallahassee. The county people say, they're telling us we have to do this in the schools, in the sheriff, in public safety. If you're sitting in Tallahassee, how are you gonna juggle the needs of the county as a state lawmaker? How are you gonna make a difference in that regard? When Dr. Joyner says, one more unfunded mandate came from Tallahassee, we have to do this. How would you approach it?
Yeah, the unfunded mandates have been a big issue, and I think it's especially difficult right now because the local government revenues have, in St. Johns County, we cut millage rate, then property taxes, property values dropped, and then there were additional reforms. So the local revenues have gone down. The state went down and then recovered, so they've had a different experience. So I think it's very difficult when the locals look and the state is looking at cutting hundreds of millions of dollars, and the state is trying to reshape the tax structures to encourage businesses to come to Florida, and they're really trying to focus on that. And I applaud a lot of the work they've done, but I think that at this point, I think most local governments are at a low point in the funding, and growth gives more revenue, but somebody can be in their house for almost 2 years. If it's a new home, they may still be paying on just the dirt, not the improved house price. So, but at the same time, they need a seat in the school, those kind of things. So when I talk to the people that I hope will be my peers in Tallahassee, I said, well, if you want to cut taxes, cut your own. If you want to do a new program, fund it. You're going to have to, because they're going to have to begin to understand the challenges that the local governments are facing. It's a sweet deal if you can cut local taxes and then run on that I cut taxes, and then you still have your budget to spend. But I think we need to be mindful of the long-term impacts of any decision we make in Tallahassee. And I think it's good for them to hear from the local people what the fruits of their decisions are. One of the things that's hard, I believe, in the state legislature is with term limits. I think people are making decisions like short-term managers. They make a decision and then they're gone, and then the next group of people is there and they have to deal with it. I confess I like the idea of term limits and I voted for them, but it has had some consequences. And I think as a result, as taxpayers and citizens of the state, that we need to be mindful. I mean, if you belong to a homeowners association and they cut your fees, and then 5 years later they had to do a big special assessment, you wouldn't consider that good financial stewardship. You want to know what it really cost every day, so you can build your budget around it. So we just need to be always mindful when we do things. We need to think long term. And I think a year like this, where there is extra money, they also have to be mindful that it's great to do capital projects, but then you have to operate, maintain, and staff. That they need to think about it long term, about is this a program we can continue to carry? One-time money should go against one-time expenses, recurring funds for recurring expenses. So I just think I would like to see the state and local work more together. For many of the years that I've been in office, it's been like they're at odds. For heaven's sakes, counties are a political subdivision of the state. We're supposed to be working together to efficiently provide essential services to the people of Florida. So.
One of the things that I'm running on too is the fact that when you look at an issue, you need to look at it long term. Having had a small business, I had to look at a lot of issues, and I had to figure out where my money would best be spent. I had to, if I had to cut areas, I had to look at the repercussions of it, and I had to look at the long-term growth and where this money would go. So I think that would help. I think that type of work that I had to do will definitely help me in the legislature.
Okay. Do you have questions?
Just one. If you're elected, what do you have in mind, certain committees or certain areas that you would like to be placed upon where you think your skills and talents could best serve the constituents of Northeast Florida?
Well, I could certainly do it in tourism, but I'm very interested in education, having been a classroom teacher for a short period of my life. And I think there are several committees that I would enjoy being on that I could bring something to the table with them.
Okay.
I'm very interested in economic development, which includes tourism, ag and water, healthcare, and education appropriations. And I think it's really important as we build Florida's economy and St. Johns County's economy as we move forward, that it's not just a tourism economy. That's a good thing. That's one leg in the stool. You also want your agriculture strong. That also helps protect our tourism and our food. Goodness, we have a great restaurant industry here, and we all like to eat. And the water resources are naturally a big attractor for Florida, for people who live here and for people who visit. But you also have to work on the manufacturing and those types of things, the kind of things that fit in with our community. And by manufacturing, I'm not talking about necessarily smokestacks and those kind of things. But there are a lot of good manufacturing opportunities and high-end technology jobs. We need those to help balance our economy. And sometimes tourism's doing well, and sometimes it's not. And when you have more than one leg on your stool, the more strong your economy is, and the faster you recover. Tourism really led us out of this downturn in Florida, and we're really grateful for that. But I think for the long term, not all counties experience the good high-end
That was a
tourism.
dollar that did the tourism thing, and that helped a lot with when the dollar
Sure
dropped
did.
against the European euro.
Sure
It
did.
really increased tourism in this country. But also, I think small businesses are important to encourage too, because they're a big part of our country and the state of Florida. So I would certainly be encouraging more growth in small businesses. And that water issue is very interesting. I'm interested in that water amendment and I sort of favor the trust fund and the 5-year plan versus parceling it all out. So there's a lot of different committees that I would enjoy being on. And
Is there anything, just to wrap up, is there anything we didn't ask you that you'd like to talk about for a minute? Any special thing that we'll ask both of you guys since we're wrapping up?
Well, I think I have a lot of experience, life experiences to bring to this job, and I would enjoy participating in the legislative process up there for the betterment of the people of Florida. So if I get elected, I would love to go as a people's advocate and as a watchdog. So that's probably all I have to say.
Great. Cyndi?
My name is Cyndi Stevenson, and I'm asking for the people of St. Johns County to come out and vote on April 7th. Early voting starts on March 28th, and I would certainly appreciate your vote and your support. I have a proven track record of making hard decisions, even when they're not popular, for promoting a strong economy, and that I have a background in water, transportation, and finance that I think I can put to good service for the people of St. Johns County. I certainly understand the needs of our community, and I will certainly do everything I can to protect our natural resources, our schools, and our economy.
Well, I'd like to thank you both for coming. This has been one of the better interviews for me that we've done. It's two very smart ladies. I think you did a really good job, and I think either one of you could do a lot of great work for the state. So I appreciate you coming and sharing everything with us.
Thank you
you.
very much for having us.
Thank you.